The JJ Redick stuff continues to develop, and it just feels like they're waiting for him to get done with his TV career. And it also kind of feels like they're pumping up the idea to make everybody used to the fact that they're going to hire somebody very inexperienced. As this thing plays out, it feels like a bit of a fait accompli, does it not?
That's one way of putting it, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, is that how you would put it?
Well, yes. I mean, Bill Plaschke came on our show, I don't know, right after, at some point when the Lakers were eliminated, and started talking about how LeBron James and all this different stuff is just, it's going to happen, but we all have to go through the motions. We talked about it, I think, yesterday on the show. And he's coming back to the Lakers. They're going to draft his kid. They're going to do everything he wants.
So you think they'll draft him? You don't think he'll go undrafted and then they sign him?
I think that if he's there for their whatever it is, 55th pick or whatever, I don't have the draft board in front of me. They'll take him there, and everybody's going to have to swallow it. And it's upsetting, I guess. The media manipulation part of it really bothers me. The manipulation of one of the great franchises in the history of sport really bothers me. But I can't see myself getting inflamed about this every day for the next 2 months while it plays itself out. And they're going to hire JJ Redick. He went on that Massachusetts show, insufferable show in Massachusetts, but very popular. Felger and Maz. Have you ever heard that show?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've actually got a buddy who lived in Boston. He still listens to them to this day, even though he doesn't live there anymore.
Super chowderhead type of show. And JJ Redick was extremely condescending, like he always is. Did you guys hear that? Talking about the Celtics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if you go from hot take TV, which is not journalism. It's not really anything. It's podcasting and just talking like we're doing here. I don't know if you do that and then go to coaching one of the great franchises in the history of sport and having to face that.
Isn't he just a puppet, though, Petros? I mean, it feels like it's a done deal.
You're a puppet, but you have to work impromptu.
Sure.
You have to come up with things. You have to say things. You have to deal with the media. You got to deal with LeBron. You got to deal with things in the moment. You got to live it.
I guess I'll push back a little in the sense of I feel like he could be a really good fit for everything they're looking for. I do think JJ.
What are they looking for?
Well, again, I'll put it simply: someone who LeBron can control, and probably someone who LeBron can work with, at least for the final moments of his career. And so, if that's the case, you've got someone that clearly he feels comfortable with. Someone that I think will handle the media criticism, adversity, whatever comes along with it. He'll be able to handle it well. I do think he's
that. I mean, you think he deals with criticism well?
I do. I think he takes things head on. You might not agree with his opinion on things, but I don't think he shies away from it. I think he knows how to at least give you his viewpoint. And like any coach, you're not always going to agree with their opinion on something. But the reality is, I think he's still going to be able to stand up there, take the bullets, the comments that come his way. And I think the other thing is I do think he's an extremely hard worker. Like, I don't think there's any concern over him being able to work his tail off to make it work. I wonder how much power does he have? Like, the hard part about him signing up for this is it's obviously you can't say no. Like, that's the hard thing about having the Lakers.
Why can't you say no?
Because it's the Lakers. Like, you're going to be the guy that turned down the Lakers because you never know, too, if they're ever going to give you the opportunity to do it again. Like, that's the double-edged sword, I think, of any of these amazing franchises where they throw a guy an opportunity to be the head coach. It's like, yeah, I might go down in history as one of the worst ever, but I also could be a successful head coach of one of the greatest franchises in history.
LaVar, there's two kind of – this is a two-pronged barbecue fork of life, right? If those of us that get done playing football, like all of us did, some guys, they go right into coaching. Maybe if they were a great player, maybe if they were a walk-on, maybe anywhere in between. I know a lot of guys like that. Chris Richard was a guy I played with, a corner at SC, who went right into coaching, and then ended up becoming a D coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys for some time. I don't know where he is now. But the point is, isn't that what you do when you want to get into coaching? You don't mess around on ESPN and coach your kid's team and do all that and then dive into the pool of scorpions that is being the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, if you want to be a coach, be a coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't get it.
I think you got to go through, to your point, I think you have to go through the process of learning what being a head coach is, right? I think that's why you go into it as an analyst, as, kind of a supportive type of position, because you're –
or even like Steve Kerr, who started in a front office.
You start in the front office, right? Because you have to, as the head coach, you have to understand what everybody's doing. You have to understand what your scouts are doing. You have to understand – hell, you got to understand what the media of your team and what they're doing and how they're handling things.
Who's leaking,
right? Like, if you got leaky faucets, you got to stop, because, leaky faucet leads to a larger bill at the end of the month. It's just there's so many things that go into coaching outside of the X's and O's, and I think a lot of times that is misconstrued and it's not valued enough.
Let me throw this at you guys, though, because I feel like when I got done playing, to me, there's levels of, like, the closeness to the thing that you loved. And I don't know if you guys loved football or not. I mean, I did. It was awful, like, having to transition away from playing the game that I had played for so many years and grew to love. But there's coaching, which is the next closest thing. And I did a couple of small things that kind of helped me realize that, right? Like, I coached in the East-West Shrine game one year, and so I got an idea of what that would be like, / how nice it was to be around players and be with them every day, kind of coach them and all that. And then there's media, which is like probably the next tier, if you will, to playing. Because you're around the sport, you're watching the sport, you're talking about the sport, but you're not as in it.
And everybody's a douche.
Pretty much, but at least for guys who, like, all played together or played against each other or had played, you do have that common ground.
Well,
so there's
I will say,
the element of that. We don't change in a locker room together unless you're at NFL Network, which I think LaVar was at one point, so they had a locker room there. They're all changing it.
They have that one special room at Fox right off the avocado room where Terry Bradshaw and Howie do their Peter gazing. Peter gaze! I'll say this. I think
LaVar's been in there, haven't you, LaVar?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in that room.
Little Peter gaze?
The upper room.
You know who used to go in there and blow it out and not flush the toilet just to make everybody angry? And Andy Roddick, of all people, was the one who rooted him out and discovered him and did the detective work. Chris Myers.
Really?
I'm going to go in here and drop a deuce. Yeah.
Tight.
He went and blew it out. And like Howie would come in the next day and be like, I mean, that was anyway. Maybe a little bit of inside.
So it would sit in there all night till the next morning.
Yeah, unless somebody found it.
My God. Just that's brewing. Horrible. I mean, literally like a tea bag, just sitting there over 24 hours.
It was a terrible deal. Now my thought is, I felt kind of the same way, Brady, in that when I got done playing, and maybe this is what made me so bitter. When I got done playing, I immediately went into the local media and immediately started to cover the team that I played for. But it was a different head coach. Pete Carroll took over that I had gotten Paul Hackett fired, like I had gotten John Robinson fired. So I'm like LeBron. I get coaches just dead. And so when Pete Carroll took over, I took over as the USC kind of pre-half and post guy, and then I started doing sideline. And until like 2004, I started doing national games. But it was interesting, and maybe that's why I'm so bitter. I like stayed on the same team playing for another 4 years, which was not easy. And then I went into broadcasting, calling games in the booth, and I was up in the booth with a guy who was 30 years older than me, who didn't like to go down on the field and chop it up with the players as much because he'd been doing games for 40 years. So I did that for like 10 years. And then suddenly there was a big shakeup at Fox, and they hired Joel Klatt, and they made me Joel Klatt's sideline analyst, like Saragusa. And they wanted me basically just to quit and not do it. But I said, I'll do it, and we ended up making a success of it, and I hung on. But I really did enjoy going back to the game in that way, so to speak, right? Getting back on the sideline, even though everybody made fun of me and called me a sideline girl and all that.
Who called you a sideline?
Yeah, Aaron Andrews sure got ugly. It was a lot of that.
Someone actually said that to you?
Someone. But I will say this. I got back down onto the field for a few years, and you smell the smells. You feel what it's like to stand with the guys on the sideline. You hear them talk. And the most glaring thing to me, and this happened to me the other year when I did the Mountain West Championship with Brando and Spencer, is you look through the face masks and they're kids. They are kids. And it's hard to remember that because they're like robots, and fantasy football and video games has dehumanized all of the players. But they are young people. And to get back into it in that way was really cool. But that didn't give me the delusions of being like, okay, now I'm going to install zone, right, and now I'm going to install Y stick, and I'm going to do bed check, and I'm going to smoke cigarettes with the tight end coach on the roof of the dorm. Like, do you know what I'm saying, Brady? Like,
I do, but I think I would look at it from a different perspective too. Is it's the sacrifice that you're going to have to make to coach? Because if you are a family man, you want to have a family. You're not going to be raising your kids. You're going to be raising someone else's. And that was what kind of was staring me dead in the face when I started having kids and started pondering, could the opportunity of coaching be out there? Sure. But, like, how is that going to work with my family life?
Well, LaVar, you got into coaching because of your kid, right? Or were you doing it before?
No, Antonio Pierce got me into coaching. I had been doing mentorship and development for a lot of years.
You were at Poly for a little while?
I was.
Yeah.
I ended up coaching and thought about turning it into when he went to ASU, I thought about going there and continuing to grow within the coaching ranks. But
you got to show cause for that.
Well, to me, you ain't lying.
Show enough.
Yeah, but for me, I wanted to coach at a time. Now that I stopped coaching, I don't know how I did coach. The amount of time that you have to commit to it, and again, the politics that are connected to being a coach and the things you have to handle, and you got so many different bullets flying in so many different directions. Back to kind of the original point of it with the JJ Redick aspect of it. Is he even ready politically to be able to handle it? It's like being in politics, coming to be the head coach of the Lakers.
Well,
is he going to, the type of personality that he has, is he even going to be able to handle, the media and the way people come his way? Because he could turn some people off very quickly with the way he does have kind of a very, very intelligent but yet condescending approach to how he communicates with people.
Well, it's a little like Corolla and Jimmy Kimmel, right? Everybody's going to run to the opposite spectrum, and there's not going to be any middle ground, except for reasonable people like us. But if you are in the clutch world and you're one of these 12 or 15 media people that Rich Paul calls, right? And they all say it. Like, it's so stupid. They start out their statement, well, I think this about Bronny. I think this about LeBron. And I think this about JJ Redick. And I talked to Rich Paul earlier today. It's like, well, okay, thanks. Great. That's all propaganda. So I guess he'll feel protected under that umbrella of those 12 guys, right? Shams Charania, the fat guy on ESPN, the maybe Chinese or whoever she is, the lady on NBA, Ramona. They're all gonna sing from the Clutch Sports hymnal because that's their group. And then there's going to be the naysayers, like the people that don't get the Clutch Sports stuff, like Woj and all that. And we're all just going to be caught in this black and white media firestorm of BS. So maybe JJ feels politically protected, I guess would be my answer going into it, even though I'm sure Darvin Ham felt that way until they had him fired. And I'm sure Frank Vogel felt that way before they had him fired.
He's already assembling his staff, though, at least. If those names are coming out as far as who could potentially be on his staff, wouldn't you say it's a done deal?
Right?
I guess.
He's going to bring in – he brings in Krzyzewski with him. I got a lot of confidence that he can put together the structures.
Like Jared Dudley's name was on there, which might be one of the reasons, too, outside of his broadcast obligations,
you
why he's
think Mike
waiting.
Krzyzewski is going to risk his legacy by sitting on JJ Redick's bench and getting destroyed by LeBron?
Because he's been out. He's been in the house.
Because he's thirsty.
Yeah, he's been in the house. I mean, he's ready to get up out of that house.
I heard it was Sam Cassell, Jared Dudley, Borrego. Is that you pronounce the other guy who was up for the job? I mean, it sounds like some of those guys could end up being his
the
assistants.
guys that all the NBA types actually wanted hired because they sit there and have put in the work and realize the day-to-day logistics of it. Well, we solved the world's problems there. Lee DeLapp, your producer, is telling me to go to break. So we're going to come back and we're going to lament the state of college football and sound like more angry old people talking about the way things are today.